On a crisp autumn evening in an Inchicore park, 18-year-old Luke Wilson lay bleeding on the damp grass, his life seeping away with each laboured breath. 3 bullet wounds marred his young body, one in the face, another in the neck, and a third in his arm. The acrid smell of gunpowder lingered in the air, mingling with the metallic scent of blood. As consciousness faded, Luke's mind raced. But death, it seemed, was not ready for Luke Wilson. Not yet. How did he end up at this park, laying on the ground, counting minutes to his death as blood seeped into the earth? Well, it was a betrayal by his best friend. The gunner was meant to change hands for another crime, but instead been turned on him. Patrick McCann, the friend he trusted, had pulled the trigger not once, not twice, but 3 times. McCann's main job that day was to end the life of Wilson as revenge for a row between the two, where McCann had thrown insults at Wilson's uncles. It was only the fickle nature of fate, or perhaps the poor maintenance of a cheap handgun, that saved Luke's life. The weapon had jammed after the 3rd shot. McCann's attempted murder would later get him 20 years in prison. Going back to Luke's story, with a strength born of desperation, he managed to grasp the mobile phone his would-be assassin dropped in haste. His trembling fingers dialed 999, and as sirens wailed in the distance, he dragged his broken body towards a footbridge, leaving a trail of blood in his wake, only to be discovered by a jogger. As paramedics rushed to the scene, no one could have predicted that this brush with death would merely be the opening chapter in Luke Wilson's criminal career. The years following the shooting were a crucible for Luke Wilson. The physical scars were evident, the loss of one eye, impaired vision in the other, and a constant tremor in his right arm. Little did anyone know that 5 years later, this same young man would eagerly volunteer for a high-stakes assassination plot. The target? A member of the rival Hutch gang, and the backers? None other than the notorious Kinahan Cartel. As Luke recovered, Dublin's underworld was shifting. The Hutch-Kinahan feud erupted, painting the city streets red with blood. By 2017, Luke Wilson was a man on a mission. At 22, he was still a small-time player, but his family name opened doors. His uncles cast long shadows in Dublin's criminal circles. Eric "Lucky" Wilson, rumoured to be one of Ireland's most prolific hitmen, now serving life in Spain for killing a British expat, and Keith Wilson, in prison for life for a 2010 murder of Daniel Gaynor, the dreaded fingerless gangland killer. Luke was consumed by the need to uphold the Wilson name, but it wasn't just family pride. A severe cocaine addiction and growing gambling debts put him in danger. With the pressure mounting, he knew he had to act fast to avoid becoming a cautionary tale. When Luke heard the Kinahan faction wanted someone to take out Gary Hanley, a known Hutch associate, he jumped at the chance, despite his limitations, eager for the money and respect. Unbeknownst to him, the Garda's new strategy using advanced surveillance was tracking his every move. As Luke prepared for the Hanley job, he was unaware of the tightening surveillance. Detectives recorded his desperate conversations, gathering evidence and waiting to strike, ensuring he had no escape when he faced the judge. The day of reckoning approached. As he made his way through Dublin streets in possession of a loaded handgun, with a silencer and 3 cans of petrol, his mind raced with a toxic mix of cocaine-fueled confidence and desperate ambition. Just as he approached the location where he planned to carry out the hit on Gary Hanley, the trap was sprung. In a flurry of activity, armed authorities swarmed around him. The would-be assassin found himself staring down the barrels of several guns, his own weapon rendered useless before he could even reach for it. As the handcuffs clicked shut around his wrists, the gravity of his situation began to sink in. In the following months, as Luke awaited trial, the full extent of the Garda's operation came to light. The aggressive tactics employed by the National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau had paid off, landing on one of their biggest scalps in the ongoing battle to stem the tide of murders that engulfed the capital in 2016 and 2017. When Luke faced the judge in the Special Criminal Court for conspiracy to murder and firearm possession, his bravado was gone. The judge praised the operation and told Luke, "Had you fought this, you'd be facing 16 years. Consider yourself fortunate with 12. Luke gave a weak smile and muttered, "Thank you, Judge," before being led away to serve his sentence. While serving his time at Mountjoy Prison, prison officers observed him to be in particularly bad form. The weight of his actions and their consequences seemed to be pressing down on him, creating a powder keg of emotions ready to explode at the slightest provocation. That provocation came in the form of a simple instruction from a prison officer. It was late, and Wilson was spotted with a mop and bucket, apparently cleaning his cell. The officer, who knew Wilson well from his time on the landing, informed him it was too late for such activities. A reasonable request, one might think. But for Wilson, it was the spark that ignited his fury. "F*** off or I'll cut the throat of you," Wilson snarled at the officer, his words dripping with venom. But Wilson wasn't finished. As he was directed back to his cell, he continued his tirade, escalating his threats. "I can't get you in here," he spat, "but I can get you on the way home. I'll cut your throat." The menace in his voice was profound, turning a routine interaction into a chilling confrontation. The day wore on, and Wilson's behaviour only deteriorated. An incident with another officer led to the decision to move Wilson to a different cell. When 3 officers attempted to escort him, Wilson initially refused to comply. It was only when additional assistance was called that he finally cooperated. But even as he was being moved, Wilson's aggression reached new heights. In a moment of unbridled rage, he turned to the officer and uttered the words that would seal his fate. "If I don't get you, I'll get your kids and family. I will cut their throats." For the targeted officer, these were not empty threats. He later reported that Wilson's words were delivered with real venom, a level of aggression he had never before witnessed from the young convict. The officer's concern was justified. He knew of Wilson's connections in the criminal world and believed him capable of following through on his threats. In court, Wilson's defense painted a picture of a troubled young man, deeply affected by his past traumas and struggles with addiction. His lawyer, Bowman, emphasized that Wilson's behavior was deeply rooted in drug use. Indeed, at the time of his arrest for the assassination plot, Wilson and an accomplice had been recorded snorting cocaine, a chilling proof to the depth of his substance abuse issues. Bowman portrayed his client as remorseful, a man who uttered words he desperately wished he could take back. It was a reaction over which he felt he had little control at the time, he told the court, seeking understanding for Wilson's outburst. The defense also highlighted the personal toll of Wilson's original 12-year sentence. Bowman described it as crushing for his client, who realized he would miss much of his young son's childhood. The judge presiding over the case at Dublin Circuit Criminal Court acknowledged the genuine remorse expressed in a letter penned by Wilson. Nonetheless, she couldn't overlook the severity and persistence of his threats. The threat was issued with significant venom and extended to his family members as well. The means by which the threat would be executed was set out, Judge Greeley noted, underscoring the specific and frightening nature of Wilson's words. The judge also emphasized the importance of protecting prison officers, who perform a difficult and often dangerous job. Members of the prison service have to have confidence that something will be done, she stated, highlighting the need for consequences to such behavior. In her ruling, Judge Greeley sentenced Wilson to an additional 3.5 years in prison to be served consecutively to his existing 12-year term. In a small act of leniency, she suspended the final 18 months of this new sentence, subject to strict conditions. That was it for today's video. What are your thoughts on today's topic? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see our next videos.